Kampala City enters a phase of strict, full and continuous enforcement of all city laws and ordinances.
While called to serve. In our Church of Uganda exclusive, today we sit with the re-elected Mothers Union President of Namirembe, Miss Roslyn Kawiso, who share her vision rooted in prayer, family and community.
Trying to encourage the young ladies to come and join us so that they can be able to manage their families. Me, Mothers Union, I can say it has really made me live in the marriage for 27 years. If it was not Mothers Union, I don't think maybe I would still be here. Because every day you learn something. And us women, we share experiences.
And crossing the borders, Trump assassination plot. Man convicted of trying to assassinate US President gets life sentence.
Brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
You are welcome once again to our news bulletin. Now, government has issued a 2-week ultimatum to street vendors and operators of illegal border stages to vacate Kampala's central business district, warning that non-compliance will attract legal action. Now, the directive announced by the Minister for Kampala and Metropolitan Affairs, Hajat Minsa Kabanda, is part of the renewed efforts to restore order, reduce congestion, and improve cleanliness in the city, alongside the reintroduction of Sunday markets as an alternative for traders. We take a look.
The directive was issued by the Minister for Kampala and Metropolitan Affairs, Hajat Minsa Kabanda, who announced a 2-week ultimatum for street vendors to vacate Kampala's central business district. She said the move is intended to restore order and improve mobility within the city. Illegal border stages are also affected, with the minister noting that the unchecked operations have significantly contributed to congestion and disorder in the capital.
Effective immediately, Kampala City enters a phase of strict, full and continuous enforcement of all city laws and ordinances. For months, enforcement was moderated to allow peaceful political participation. That window is now closed. The capital city must function. Illegal border stages in the central business district are abolished with immediate effect. Riding on pedestrian walkways, obstructing traffic, and operating without registration will result in instant impounding and arrest.
The minister further announced the return of Sunday markets, saying the move will provide vendors with structured and predictable trading opportunities.
Government has listened. Government has warned. Government has provided alternatives through gazetted markets and designated stages. Kampala Capital Store Authority, that is KCCA, has heard the request from vendors and is due to bring back the Sunday market to provide more working hours for the vendors. Those that require working spaces in mentioned gazetted areas could approach KCCA, Directorate of Gender, for guidance. What follows now, therefore, is enforcement of trade order and not dialogue any time.
Addressing concerns that the directive is politically motivated, Hajat Kabanda dismissed the claims and called for collective responsibility and efforts to discongest the city.
I would like to emphasize that this operation is not targeted at the poor. It is targeted at lawlessness. A city without order collapses on everyone, rich or poor alike. Kampala is not just a place of survival. It is the capital city of the Republic of Uganda. It must be clean, safe, passable, and dignified. I therefore call upon all residents, traders, riders, political leaders, and opinion shapers to cooperate with enforcement teams and to choose compliance over confrontation.
She warned members of the public and politicians against sabotaging the enforcement process, stressing that anyone found interfering will face the courts of law.
Let me issue this warning without ambiguity. Any person who turns to illegal trading after eviction will be arrested and prosecuted. Any goods found trading illegally will be confiscated as provided by law. Any enforcement officer found soliciting bribes or aiding illegality will face disciplinary action and prosecution. Any political leader who interferes with enforcement or shields lawbreakers will be publicly named and reported to higher authorities.
KCCA Deputy Executive Director Benon Moses Chigenyi urged affected traders to take up available spaces in gazetted public markets, reiterating the authorities' mandate to regulate the city.
We have workspaces available in gazetted markets such as Usafi, Busega, Wandegea. Additional markets including Kamocha, Gaba are going to be constructed, and in a short while Chitintale market will be completed and will have many more workspaces. The city is investing in infrastructure to ensure that business can continue safely, fairly and profitably.
Meanwhile, Kampala Metropolitan Police spokesperson Rachel Kawala told Church of Uganda Family TV that police are fully prepared to enforce the directive once the grace period
shall effectively, together with help the KCCA to enforce the directives that have been put in place. However, what we call upon the public to abide by the directive. Yes, our role is to keep law and order. However, we also call upon the traders to abide by the directive to avoid any inconvenience.
This latest directive comes amid a history of similar government interventions that have often stalled due to political interference and weak enforcement. John Baptista Humza, Church of Uganda Family TV News at 8.
Now, still on the same, street vendors in Kampala have expressed dismay over the directive by the government to vacate the Kampala Central Business District in 2 weeks. Now, these have demanded to meet the president like any other Ugandans, saying the directive is not considerate to them. Now, this comes shortly after the Minister for Kampala, Hajat Minsa Kabanda, issued stringent directives to street vendors and illegal border stages whom she accuses of traffic congestion in the city. We have more.
President Museveni tumusaba mu kaseera kano ngabana akaseera akatono semanya ke batuwadde ke batugambye aka wiki 2 aka akaseera katono nnyo ku munansi aka akaseera okayina kawa muntu nga muyekera ngoba yekera gwa no muga wiki 2 byangu ovudde mu nsiko ojjoko mewotes nefe tuli bannansi tulina abaana abasoma ng'omuntu omulala yenna waabalina tuli banna Uganda nga munna Uganda yenna bannamawulire bannange ekintu kino mukitwale nga mujje mukiraba era muzze mukavalinganga amawulire ebintu nebiberanga bya bulimba ng'era bimu ku director omukulu wa KCC Simulumbye Mbubi byayogedde teri mudaala n'ogumu mbutale ekyo ne honorable minister akiwako obujulizi kuba twasooka kola research ng'era batandika byogera nga mukatale teri mudaala n'ogumu so tusaba president Museveni kino ekintu akingiremu mbunambiro ku lw'eggwanga lyaffe tulyagala tetujja tukoyo tukozesanga mu ngeri y'okulonda bwe kulonda okugwawo nga bakola ebintu nga bino ebitajjansa.
Gwanda bagitwala si yaffe ya muntu omu Bosco yagikubako n'ekibaati n'ekirala ery'ebbanga lye batuwa nti nkya batuwadde wiiki 2 ate nazo ndaba ntono. Wano twali mu kulonda President Museveni yagamba bajja kona abantu banga abennyanya mukadde kano president otwerabidde ennyanya zaffe bazirinnye ennyanya bazivulugeze wagamba n'ekirala President Museveni abatembeyi tetuli bayeekera tuli bantu bamufuna mpola tulowoozeeko nga bojjolowooza ku balala tujja sobola okufuna capital naffe okuva ku kkubo neba amwe eyo gye baatandikira.
President Museveni tukunoonyezezza akalulu ne Hajjati Miisa naye kati lwaki otugobaganya ku ssaawa zino abaana baffe bali ewa
naye nga mugenda kukosebwa mutya?
Kibi nnyo tetujja kyogerako ffe tumanye obulumi bwe tulina essaawa zino ne bannaffe bali eyo kati bakaaba naye nabo balinze kiki kye tubateesezza era essaawa zino tuli mu lutalo olwaffe terunaggwa. Hajjati kituufu otulwanirira naye ebyomutugoba kituufu Kampala mbi essaawa zino ow'ennyaanya ow'emicungwa owa chapati namwe mubiraba naye si yeyo engeri gye mulina otugobamu.
Neffe tusaba yeddeko naye muntu alina omusaayi alina n'abaana naffe tulina abaana abeetaaga okusoma ye waatuuse naffe gye tugenda okujja ffe tugenda okubeera bahaamu b'enkya ne tunaafuuka tutya ng'ebintu byaffe ye buli kaseera sente azisowerera nfe kyoziwaffe abaana ate aziwa bali basobole okutuyigganya naffe tugamba bwe tuti nti kabe katonda tetugenda kuva mu kibuga Kampala okugjako nga gavumenti evuddeyo n'eddoboozi ery'omwanguka nti tugenda kubawa wano ne azipa nawo tebalina kifo nammwe mubabuuziza ebibuuzo tebalina kifo kiteeketeeke kye bagamba wano we mugenda okudda tosobola kungoba nga sira tondaze wakudda era kyekizza emyaka gyonna kijja kitawaanya abatembeeyi bakusuubiza kaleerwe teri ne bagamba usaffe basusizaayo kawo niwe nkutwalayo olwaleero mukama wange emidaala gyonna gye bagamba nti gyegiri era mbadde njagala nyongera akazindalo mbagambe omwo batunzi basusizaamu kawo woba oyagala akawogo omwana
kati ogwokubi bagenda tugamba tuveewo tugenda kukolerawo bannaffe twagenze tubagamba bannange ne batugobyewo netugamba naye mutwogerere tufunze kale guno omwezi guggweko netugamba banna ekikintu kyakoze eki kiganya okukwata ekifuba tunda olwaleero ne wiiki ekuggweremu neddako essente zo zikola eki ozitereke osasulire omwana wo school fees n'ekirala tusaba Hajjati Kabanda nga bwe twamulonze yatukuŋŋanaga tunoonyeze Museveni akalulu tetwalya tetwafuna na musaala ne kaaka tetufunanga musaala ogwokuuma akalulu twakakuuma ne tukanoonya kuddowa buli mutembe nga tumugamba ne tulonde muzeeyi jjajja abeerewo.
Quite unfortunate for the traders right there, and we do hope that their cries will be listened to. Moving on, with companies facing shrinking markets and unstable revenues, business leaders have gathered in Kampala at a CEO breakfast meeting hosted by Price Media Limited to rethink sales systems, strengthen revenue planning, and embrace skills-driven growth. Rita Nandera has the report.
Door-to-door marketing.
The businesses across the country continue to grapple with declining sales and unpredictable revenue streams, challenges experts say can only be addressed through legitimate planning, strong leadership and well-structured sales systems. It is against this backdrop that Price Media Limited convened a CEO breakfast meeting in Kampala, bringing together the chief executives to exchange insights on the sales turnaround strategies, revenue forecasting and sustainable business growth.
To do a bit of audit and planning. And then once you have done that audit and planning, to look at the process itself.
The meeting held today focused on helping company leaders rethink their sales structures and equip their teams with strategic, market-driven skills needed to remain competitive in the rapidly changing business landscape.
Ebiseera ojja kwesanga ebiseera ebisinga bakitunzi badduka kuba tebasasulwa bulungi naye kibaddusa sigamba nti no kampani ebakozesa yebayisa obubi. Kampani ebakozesa terina framework bwe bajja okukola batandika okukola ebintu naye nga tetebivaamu tebalaba results. Bo bakola abasasula agenda sente teziriiwo sente zijja leeti ojja kwesanga nga batandise okudduka kubanga nabo bennyini babawa emirimu okubeera nga batunda babawa emirimu okubeera nga bali ba salesman naye ogenda okulaba nga mu byaddala nabo tebamanyi tewali yali abasomesezza bino bintu kati ekiga ekiddako ogenda owulira nti ono yabadde akola wano kakati yavuddewo. So yensonga waki ba salesman abasinga ebiseera ebisinga badduka era bakola ekintu kyekimu bwadduka kubanga tamanyi ne gyagenze tebamanyi abeera mu eyo cycle yakudduka kati yensonga waki tugamba abantu musindika abantu abaagala okubeera nga bakola ki nga bayiga sales tubasomese tubalage ekyokola.
Douglas Opio, the AD of the Federation of Uganda's Employers, called for greater adoption of the artificial intelligence in Uganda, noting that while many countries have embraced the technology to boost productivity and efficiency, Uganda is yet fully harness its potential.
What we have seen, for instance, the use of artificial intelligence, especially generative artificial intelligence, is growing. As I speak now, 100 million people are using generative AI. But in Uganda, that's not the case. So we need to help people to appreciate that technology is being used and they need to utilize it.
On the skills-based hiring, Opio noted that employers are increasingly shifting away from the reliance on academic papers alone, emphasizing that the practical competence, measurable output, and the ability to deliver results now matter most in the workplace.
The change that we are seeing is that leadership is moving to become more human-centric. In fact, soft skills like empathy, like emotional intelligence are becoming sought after skills because leadership has to be more human-centric because the pressure is rising. People have targets which they are failing to meet. Competition is increasing. The customers are becoming more sensitive because they are more aware. They can compare products, they can compare prices in real time.
Stakeholders at the meeting emphasized that skills development is no longer optional, urging workers and organizers alike to continuously upskill, innovate, and adapt in order to remain competitive and relevant in today's evolving business environment.
Now, as Uganda's 11th parliament approaches the end of its constitutional term, its record stands at the intersection of reform, controversy, and loss. This house pushed parliament beyond Kampala through regional sittings, passed some of the most consequential laws of the decade, and navigated deeply divisive reforms from touching coffee, pensions, political funding, digital space, and military justice. Yet, its tenure has also been defined by the passing of several legislatures, events that triggered emotional by-elections and reshaped political representation. Tonight, in our second part of a look into the 11th Parliament series, we examine how achievement, debate, and succession have collectively defined the legacy of Uganda's Parliament 2012 to 2026. We take a look.
Swear in the name of the Almighty God that I will at all times well and truly serve the Republic of Uganda in the office of the Speaker.
The 11th Parliament registered notable institutional reforms, including the introduction of parliamentary regional sittings as a formal legislative practice. The initiative was designed to bring Parliament closer to the people, allowing members of Parliament to directly interrogate region-specific challenges and priorities. The inaugural regional sitting was held in Gulu City, northern Uganda. Deliberations focused on post-conflict recovery, inadequate transport infrastructure, and persistently high poverty levels. Government Chief Whip noted that beyond policy discussions, the sitting stimulated the local economy through increased demand for accommodation, food, and fuel. President Yoweri Museveni attended and addressed the session, endorsing the Parliament to the People initiative. Following Gulu, Parliament began assessments ahead of future sittings in Mbarara, Mbale, Masaka, and other regions.
And whereas the Karamoja sub-region has traditionally experienced low literacy levels, with 66% of the population not having any form of formal education.
The 11th Parliament also passed a series of amendment acts, many of them signed into law by President Museveni, some sparking intense national debate. Foremost among these was the National Coffee Amendment Act 2024, one of the most contentious laws of the term. The legislation abolished the Uganda Coffee Development Authority and transferred its functions to the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Government argued the move would reduce administrative costs under its rationalization policy. However, farmers and political leaders, particularly from Buganda, warned that dismantling an independent regulator could undermine quality control and international certification for Uganda's leading export. Parliament passed the bill on November 6, 2024, and it was signed into law on December 23, 2024.
A question that the National Coffee Amendment Bill 2024 be read a second time. Those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Coffee Amendment Bill 2024, Bills Committee stage. Right, Honourable Speaker.
Another milestone was the NSSF Amendment Act 2021, widely viewed as a win for workers during post-COVID economic recovery. The law expanded mandatory employer contributions and allowed eligible members aged 45 with at least 10 years of savings to access 20% of their funds before retirement. The Political Party Funding Amendment Act 2025 introduced conditional state financing tied to adherence to democratic principles. Critics argued the provisions risked being used to constrain parties perceived as overly critical of government. Similarly, the Computer Misuse Amendment Act 2022 sought to curb online harassment and misinformation, raising debate around digital rights and freedom of expression.
Attorney General. Yes. You know, once somebody shares a bad thing about you, you get to know that indeed you go to penalize people as a deterrent what? Measure. Even that 500 is small. We should therefore, and I want to propose, we lift that figure to 800 currency points. Yes, because we are deterring people.
Honorable members.
One of the most transformative and controversial laws was the UPDF Amendment Act 2025, which reintroduced the trial of civilians in military courts under exceptional circumstances. This followed a January 2024 Supreme Court ruling that had initially outlawed the practice, reigniting national debate over civil liberties and military justice.
Honorable Speaker and honorable colleagues, this law is about civilians who voluntarily acquire arms, equipments of violence. This law is also about the civilians who voluntarily masquerade as militants. This law is about those who would commit offense with the military or with the help of any military officer to be tried as proposed.
The 11th Parliament also passed several other significant laws, including the Occupational Safety and Health Amendment Act 2025, which expanded workplace safety obligations to all enterprises and introduced mandatory safety audits. Tax reforms under the 2025-2026 tax legislation included amendments to income tax, VAT, and the scrapping of the 15,000 shilling stamp duty on agreements. The Human Organ Donation and Transplant Act 2023 established a legal framework for organ transplants while criminalizing commercial organ trade. The 11th Parliament was also deeply marked by loss. Among the members who did not live to see the end of the term was Jacob Lokori Olanya, Speaker of Parliament and Omoro County MP. Others include Patrick Okabe of Serere County, who died in a road accident, Charles Okelo Engola, Oyam County North MP and State Minister for Labour, killed in 2023, and Cecilia Barbara Timogwal, the veteran Dokolo District Woman MP, who passed away in January 2024. Further losses included Sarah Mateke Nyirabashitsi, Chisoro District Woman MP and State Minister for Defense, Muhammad Sejirinya, Kawempe North MP, and Stella Poloti Isodo, Ngora District Woman MP, who passed away shortly after the 2026 general elections. These deaths triggered a series of consequential by-elections that reshaped parliamentary representation. In Kawempe North, the March 2025 by-election was won by NUP's Elias Nalukola. Chisoro District elected Grace Ngabirano Akifeza following the death of Sarah Mateke. In Dokolo, UPC's Sarah Agut Nyenkane succeeded Cecilia Ogwal in March 2024. Other contests included Oyam County North, where Samuel Okelongola succeeded his late father, and Serere County, where Emmanuel Omonding emerged victorious in February 2023. Earlier, Soroti East Division elected Herbert Ariko after a court nullified the previous election, while Omoro County voters chose Andrew Ojokulanya of the NRM to succeed the late speaker. Beyond Parliament, the December 2021 Kayunga District Chairperson by-election stood out as one of the most competitive local government races of the period. As the curtain falls on the 11th Parliament, its legacy remains complex and enduring, defined by bold reforms, fierce debate, and the human cost of leadership. It is a parliament remembered not only for the laws it passed, but for the transitions it forced, the voices it lost, and the political landscape it leaves behind. Stay tuned as we unfold more information in our Look at 11th Parliament series.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
And of course, that's our part 2 of our 11th Parliament series. If you do want to watch part 3, make sure that you tune in tomorrow, same time, same place, for part 3 of the 11th Parliament. Well, now, let us head into the Archbishop's Moment. Archbishop's Moment. Sponsored by Uganda Christian University, a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. Join the UCU experience now.
And St. John's Wakiso Secondary School, where faith meets education.
It is not yet done until it is done. There is the hope amidst the hopelessness. Even in your spiritual life, even in your job, some people think, no, I'm good, no promotion. You never know. I like football, and that's why I support Arsenal. The reason this younger man called Saka Bukayo. Even when you are remaining with 5 minutes or 3, he can score. He can score. So let me tell you, God is a God. Even at the last minute, He's still working. Even when everybody says, that one is gone, scrap. God can promote you. God can do a miracle. God can work in your marriage. God can restore your marriage. God, even when you say, this one will never get married. She's beyond the age. Wapi.
Archbishop's Moment. Sponsored by Uganda Christian University, a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. Join the UCU experience now. And
St. John's Wakiso Secondary School, where faith meets education.
A kind reminder to you, our dear viewer, that God is a God of impossibility. He's not man that he can lie, but instead, he knows the plans that he has for us, and of course, they are a plan to prosper us and not to harm us, plans for a hope and a future. I hope that reminder stays with you in your mind and in your heart always trusting in Him and not leaning on your own understanding. That's the message for tonight. We are going for a short commercial break. Do stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. Now, tonight we bring you a special report from the Church of Uganda, Namirembe Diocese, where Mothers Union members have once again placed their trust in a leader they describe as faithful, principled, and selfless. Mrs. Roslyn Winji Kawiso has been re-elected Mothers Union President for a second 4-year term, following what members say has been a season of transparent and impactful leadership. We take a look.
On Saturday, 31st January 2026, Mothers Union members in Namirembe Diocese re-elected Mrs. Roslyn Winji Kawiso as their president, reaffirming their confidence in her leadership for a second term. Mrs. Winji, first elected in 2022, had initially pledged to serve only one term.
In Namirembe Diocese, I started the leadership from All Saints Church. And I remember I made one term. That was my calling. I was saying every time I want to make one term. I made one term at All Saints Church, Mutundwe. Then I was elected as a chairperson of Sabadikon, Nateta Chidikonari. I told them I was making one term. They pleaded I should stay with them, but I said no, it is one term.
However, members overwhelmingly appealed to her return to the ballot, citing her integrity, transparency, and inclusive leadership style.
But I had a calling from my sisters. I called them my sisters, my Mothers Union members. They were calling me back. Rose, come back. Rose, come back. Rose, come back. Okay, I didn't want to be like Jonah, because Jonah, the Lord told him to go to Tarsus, and he decided to go somewhere else, and he was swallowed by the fish. So I said, okay, let the God's will be done. But as Rose, I fear elections. I fear voting. I don't want to be a failure in my...
Born in Hoima to the Bunyoro royal family, Mrs. Binji later relocated to Kampala with her family in 2000, a move that would shape both her faith journey and service in the church. I remember I left Hoima before I got saved. I got saved in 2005, and that was in February on 17th. That's when I got saved at St. Francis Chapel. After a lot of testimonies, I would see what God has done for me. She reveals that her walk with Christ began after joining the Mothers Union 2 years into her marriage, at a time when she was not yet a born-again Christian. She says that the fellowship, prayer life, and shared commitment among Mothers Union members gradually drew her closer to God as they consistently prayed for families and upheld Christian values.
Coming closer to the ladies of Mothers Union, I started checking myself what was right and what was not wrong. Of course, with committed prayers, miracles after miracles would happen on me. First and foremost, we used to pray for our children, education. That was our first prayer. Everybody would feel like my child would get a first grade. You would pray, and really, the children would get first grade.
In February 2005, at St. Francis Chapel, Makerere, Binji accepted Jesus as her personal savior, a decision she says has anchored her faith for the past 20 years. Her leadership journey within Namirembe Diocese began at All Saints Church Mutundwe, later serving as chairperson Sabadikon in Nateta Archdiaconry. As she embarks on her second term, Binji says lessons learned during her first tenure will guide her leadership and decision making.
After that one, I was elected to be the president of Mothers Union, Namirembe Diocese. I was so happy, though I was somehow terrified, because I was from the Archdiaconry of Natete, which was a little smaller than the Archdiaconry, the diocese. But with praying and fasting and working hand in hand with several reverends whom I cannot mention here, and the bishops and the bishops' wives and reverends' wives, they encouraged me. And I started getting strength that I can lead. What I've learned in Laskisanja, which I think it will guide me, is to know people more. And social capital is very key. Social capital is very key, though last time I had social capital, but I don't think I had enough. I need to explore more. I need to explore more in government, I need to explore more in the church, I need to explore more in my village here and everywhere, so that we can make Mothers Union sign for everybody.
Among her key priorities is encouraging younger women to join the Mothers Union, noting that fellowship equips them with practical skills for family management and responsible parenting.
As per now, some of our young ladies, they are not joining Mothers Union. Though the rate at which they were joining, and as per now, at least we have some young ladies. But before, we didn't even have young ladies. Most of them, you see, they are old women. So we are trying to encourage the young ladies to come and join us so that they can be able to manage their families.
She also plans to strengthen collaboration between Mothers Union and Fathers Union, observing that many church programs have traditionally excluded husbands.
Another thing which I want to look at is the Fathers Union, Mothers Union. We have not done enough. Okay, we have been having one day of couples retreat on 1st of May. That's why we normally meet with our husbands. So most of the things we are doing them minus our husbands. And some of our husbands have complained. Like when we are going out for trips, we normally leave them because, you know, women, they like traveling. And the women here, they were not traveling. You see a woman having money, but of course you cannot wake up early in the morning and you say, I'm going here when they have not invited you. Even if however much money you have, if you are not invited, you cannot go. And these women, they have money, even their husbands have money. They want to make them happy. So we have made trips, several trips. The first trip was in Rwanda. Another one we went to Nigeria. Another one we went to Zambia last year. And we also have been having the internal visits for those people who cannot afford going far.
Reflecting on achievements from her previous term, Binji highlights women empowerment initiatives, joint diocesan visits, strengthened prayer and fasting programs, preaching engagements, and Bible competitions across the diocese.
My first achievement, which I feel proud of, is my first aim was to teach the women, us, to praying and fasting, and then also preaching other people in church. We have been having that problem that we have some few women who can be able, who have the courage to stand up and read the Bible. Just in case the reverend asks for somebody to read the Bible, everybody sigh off. People were shying off not to read, to stand up and read the Bible. People will say, okay, Rose, it is you who is going to preach us on Sunday. Say, me, how can I do it? I've never done it. I cannot do it. So in my term, we organized contextual Bible competitions.
As she concludes, Binji urges women to work hard for their families, remain economically active, and embrace intentional parenting for both boys and girls, stressing that strong families are the foundation of a strong church and society.
These days when you go to our children, they call them children of today. I don't know whether we have parents of today. Let us do parenting over children, both boys and girls. More especially a boy child has been left.
With renewed confidence from Mothers Union members and a clear vision anchored in faith, service and family values, Rosaline Binji Kawiso begins her second term as president, carrying the hopes of women across the Namirembe Diocese into a new chapter of growth and spiritual renewal. Story compiled by Julius Mhomza for Church of Uganda Family TV, News at 8.
Thank you, Julius Muhumuza, for that compilation. And of course, we do continue to congratulate Mrs. Rosaline Binji Kawiso. While moving on, Equity Bank Uganda, in partnership with UK Aid and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, has launched a new financing facility aimed at accelerating Uganda's transition to clean cooking. Now, the Modern Energy Cooking Services Trust Fund seeks to make electric cooking technologies more affordable for households and businesses, as government reaffirms its commitment to supporting private sector-led energy solutions. Take a look.
Clean cooking adoption in Uganda remains low and still largely dominated by biomass fuels. As of 2024-2025, only between 3.8 and 15% of households use clean and sustainable cooking solutions. Despite surplus electricity generation, adoption of electric cooking continues to face barriers including high appliance costs, cultural preferences, and limited public awareness. To bridge these gaps, Equity Bank Uganda, in partnership with UK Aid and the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, has launched affordable financing under the Modern Energy Cooking Services Trust Fund to support the uptake of electric cooking technologies nationwide.
For my honor to officially launch the Energy Cooking Services Trust Fund and to reaffirm the interests of government, the interests of the ministry, would want to get those who stay in the kitchen.
Launching the initiative, the Minister of State for Energy, Honorable Kasayo Plot, welcomed the partnership and reaffirmed the government's commitment to enabling private sector solutions in clean energy space.
Access to clean cooking is no longer a peripheral issue in our
It is central to Uganda's energy transition agenda, with clean cooking links to our climate action, public health, gender, and broader sustainable development objectives. While we have made progress in electricity generation and access,
the minister noted that the high cost and limited availability of electric cooking appliances have slowed adoption, underscoring the importance of the new financing, particularly for ordinary Ugandans.
E-cooking is only at 2%, but would wish to see it go up to 20% by 2030 or earlier, because of its good attributes. And electricity is also becoming available. But to make this happen, we must have the financing. That's why I would wish to thank Equity for being courageous, and then the British High Commission.
Catherine Somgen, Director for Public Sector and Social Investment at Equity Bank Uganda, said the initiative will help households transition to clean cooking while enabling businesses to operate more efficiently.
What we are doing as Equity Bank, if you remember, the minister mentioned that some of these appliances are not easily accessible. So what Equity Bank is doing is to support the suppliers through trade finance products to actually easily import some of these appliances and be able to scale up and in turn reach as many people as possible.
She revealed that the project will run for 2 years at a total cost of 2.6 billion Ugandan shillings.
It should be running for around 1 to 2 years during this period. And the suppliers will be able to access between 10 to 50 million shillings just to support them in bringing in these technologies. So it's mainly the suppliers of these e-appliances. They're the ones that have the need. That's where the gap is. They're not able to import them in. They're not able to scale up. So we are partnering with UKAID and the Ministry of Energy to support them, one, access them affordably, but also having them available.
UKAID Climate and Energy Policy Officer Lydia Nandaula said the financing reflects the United Kingdom's long-term commitment to supporting Uganda's clean cooking transition as both a climate action and a development priority.
The intention is to strengthen suppliers, crowding further finance and build confidence in the sector, not to replace private capital or to distort the market. Uganda has made real progress in recent years. Evidence generated under the MIX program has shown that electric cooking is viable, increasingly affordable and preferred by users.
Stakeholders welcomed the initiative, describing it as timely and critical in reducing reliance on biomass fuels.
Such amounts of money, if they come in, they are going to help entrepreneurs such as ourselves to make sure that we don't rely on grant money, but also trying to look at least debt financing.
And targets households, small and medium enterprises, micro businesses, importers, manufacturers, and institutions under government-approved programs, with eligible borrowers able to access financing starting from 30 million Ugandan shillings. John Baptista Homza, Church of Uganda, Family TV News at 8.
And moving on, government and civil society actors have taken a major step in strengthening Uganda's tobacco control framework following the signing of a landmark agreement aimed at countering tobacco industry interference. Now, the move brings together the National Tobacco Control Committee, HEPS Uganda, and partner civil society organizations to enhance monitoring, policy protection, and public health advocacy. More details.
The National Tobacco Control Committee, established under Section 3 of the Tobacco Control Act 2015, is mandated to advise the Minister on national tobacco control policies and coordinate, monitor and oversee implementation of the Act. Under the new agreement, HEPS Uganda will continue to serve as host and secretariat of the Tobacco Industry Monitoring Team, a technical body tasked with systematic tracking tobacco industry activities, particularly interference in taxation and national budget process. Civil society organizations involved in tobacco control say that their role is to represent public interest by safeguarding public health from the commercial and vested interests of the tobacco industry.
Civil society has come in hand with us, and now we are moving together to ensure that this vice is controlled. The adverse effects of tobacco is no new song to each and everyone. It is a public health concern, it is a social concern, and it is also a devastating environmental destructive activity.
Dr. Ngowi, the chairperson of the National Tobacco Control Committee, who also represents the Office of the Prime Minister, acknowledges challenges implementing the Tobacco Control Act, citing limited resources for large-scale public sensitization and awareness campaigns.
Each and every government entity that we've interacted with is in support of controlling this vice. We have discussed with Minister of Finance in the way of taxation, which is the major aspect of controlling tobacco control. And we are really underway to see to it that tax reforms are coming on board such that we reduce on the consumption and use of this tobacco industry, the tobacco use. The challenges we are having, of course, of the implementation of the Act are some of the resources for which our colleagues from HEP have come in handy to do the support. We therefore need legislative agreement. We need massive mobilization and creation of awareness.
He affirmed the committee's commitment to reducing tobacco consumption, adding that government plans are underway to support tobacco farmers in transitioning to alternative livelihoods.
As a committee, we are diverse and we are committed to ensure that we really bring tobacco use and the supply to minimal levels. And the government is also committed to ensure that all those ones that are taking part in production of tobacco are given alternative livelihood activities such that this vice is really eliminated.
Dr. Ngowi also called on the media to play a central role in awareness creation and in exposing tactics used by tobacco industry to sustain its market presence.
In fact, media is key, but we've not yet felt it so much, and it is upon us, not necessarily to be pushed by the committee, but also themselves to come up that the effects from tobacco use is devastating, and since they have a wide coverage, they should have this as part of their agenda in day-to-day life.
Moses Taribita, the sales oils representative on the committee, urged the government to shield public health policies from commercial and vested interests of the tobacco industry, emphasizing that all tax, non-tax and budgetary processes must be protected from interference.
Civil society processes.
HEPS Uganda welcomed the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, saying that it will significantly enhance tobacco industry monitoring efforts nationwide.
We've had a key milestone in terms of tobacco response and the implementation of the Tobacco Control Act regulations in terms of monitoring tobacco industry interference, where we've signed an MOU with the National Tobacco Control Committee that we will work through to ensure that we are pushing back on tobacco interference through sharing information, but using this platform to share what the industry is updating in terms of tactics, but also ensuring that there is enforcement to ensure that they are pushing back. And in particular, we are focused on monitoring the tax cycle.
Say that the collaboration marks a critical milestone in protecting public health, strengthening policy implementation, and reducing tobacco-related harm, reinforcing Uganda's commitment to putting lives before profits. Julius Mhomza, Church of Uganda Family TV, News at 8.
Well, that's it from the National Tobacco Control Committee. And of course, before we wrap up for tonight, let us take a look at our headlines.
Headlines brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
Government gives vendors and illegal border stages 2-week ultimatum to vacate city streets. Return Sunday markets as alternative trading option in a move aimed to restore order and improve mobility.
Kampala is highly congested, and the government will no longer tolerate disorder, lawlessness, and abuse of public space in the name of survival or politics. Effective immediately, Kampala City enters a phase of strict, full and continuous enforcement of all city laws and ordinances.
While called to serve, in our Church of Uganda exclusive, today we sit with the re-elected Mothers Union President of Namirembe, Miss Roselyn Kawiso, who share her vision rooted in prayer, family and community.
Trying to encourage the young ladies to come and join us so that they can be able to manage their families. Me, Mothers Union, I can say it has really made me live in the marriage for 27 years. If it was not Mothers Union, I don't think maybe I would still be here. Because every day you learn something. And us women, we share experiences.
And crossing the borders, Trump assassination plot. Man convicted of trying to assassinate US President gets life sentence.
Brought to you by
Centenary Publishing House, the leading publishers of prayer and hymn books since 1977.
Well, that brings us to the end of our news bulletin tonight. We do want to say thank you for watching us here on Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Hope Nyongereza and I wish you a good night.